going to be shedding light on ghosts. Yes, I'm a Star Trek podcaster, but there's a connection, and you're going to want to watch the whole thing to read that and hear about that connection. I'm going to be getting into one of my favorite shows on CBS/Paramount Plus. It's Ghosts. I have such a blast watching this show. Every week I laugh. Somebody says something cruelly hilarious, and all of the jokes just land every time. It's one of the best shows that's out on television right now. And if you're not watching, stop this video, go back and check out Ghosts. I'm going to get into episodes 1 through 3. And then tomorrow, join me for episodes 4 and 5. And then on Friday, we're going to be talking about the latest episode. That's episode 6 that just dropped. So lots of fun to have and lots to talk about. So let's get to it. Let's get into the first episode and let's get into First Glance. All right. Watching this episode, the first episode in season 3 is a coming together of all of the cast. It's a great way to bring everybody back together from brief hiatus that was slightly extended probably because of the writers and actor strikes, but everything just went off without a hitch. The cliffhanger from last season is one of the ghosts gets sucked off. I love that phrase. And we are wondering which one it is. And right off the bat, they fill us in right away. Tooth comes in. He's looking for Nigel. Nigel comes in. They reunited. We get Pete. We get Sass. We get everybody except 2, and that's Flower and Thorn. And Thorfinn comes in, and everybody realizes, oh crap, it was Flower that got sucked off. So poor Thorfinn, his beloved is gone, sucked off into heaven, maybe. And that basically is the mystery of this season so far. Who was the ghost that got sucked off? Even we get a nice cameo by Crash, who said, I stuck my head up like this and I saw the dame upstairs. She was still sleeping. So of course she's doing her thing. She's still there. A lot of fun and just a lot going on in the first couple of minutes of the episode. And of course, Pete and Nancy have the 2 best lines. And that Pete goes, oh, I guess it was just it could have been just a basement ghost. And then Nancy comes in without a hitch, just a basement ghost. Oh my goodness. The timing on this beginning episode was incredible. Like I said, it's one of my favorite shows, is something that should be celebrated. I think Rose McClarver and Utkarish Butkar are just absolutely amazing. Brandon, who we know from the latest Dracula movie, Renfield, it just blows it out of the park. I think he's one of the definite standouts on this show, and he is a force to be reckoned with. Richie Moriarty, another one that just nails it every time. So when Nancy and Pete, of course, are looking for just a basement ghost, Pete, of course, feels awful and he wants to make it up. And of course, Nancy goes to the basement and tells the other basement ghost, oh, yeah, just a basement ghost. So they're all hurting. Pete wants to make right. So this episode's hilariousness ensues with the ghost of Pete trying to make it up to the basement ghost. So let's get into the thick of it. All right, so the basement ghosts come in and they feel bad. So all the cholera victims in the basement are basically guilting Pete. So Pete invites them all upstairs, and it's bananas because they're just trying to like take over, but not in a malicious way. It's just kind of like, well, he invited us, so we're here. And they just hop into it. Hetty and Alberta are just hilarious. And my favorite line from that kind of back and forth, that momentum, would have been when Alberta says, I was trying to scratch his back and all the boils. And Pete's trying to make amends with them, and he's trying to figure out a way to keep them all copacetic, but it doesn't go as the way he plans. However, the main focus of this one, this is called The Owl, is the fact that Thorfinn believes in reincarnation because of something that Jay said, and that the spirits of people when they pass are reincarnated as something else, like as a nice animal. And sure enough, Mark goes in the garage and that they're transforming into a restaurant and finds an owl. And Thorfinn takes it to the brink and he goes, "Owl flower," and threatens Jay. He says, "If you don't leave this owl alone, I'll burn this place down like I did the gazebo." Then he does the flickering lights thing that he did, and unfortunately caused the. I was kind of hoping my little TARDIS there would flicker as I said that, but it kind of just didn't do it like I had hoped. But yeah, he flickered the lights to tell him that he means business. So of course Jay and Sam don't get rid of the owl. They needed to relocate it, but Thor really thinks it's Flower, the way it looks, the way it moves, the way it looks at him. So of course they can't do that. So of course they go and place the owl. And there you go. Now it flickered. Late. They go and place the owl in the mansion, and they start losing customers right around. The owl is driving me crazy. This woman just checks out, can't deal with it. They try to circumvent some of those issues, but it doesn't work. But the best of it is definitely the culmination of the end, where they basically say, "Okay, that's definitely not Flower in the owl, so we got to just let it relocate." And it already had issues with Jay, and Jay takes the owl and lets it out into the wild. And as he goes out into the wild, the owl flies back at him and attacks him, which is just amazing. It's a funny show, and these episodes are just all one after the other, banger after banger after banger. The next episode is Man of Your Dreams. So this episode's really cool, and that's because we get a double dose of Star Trek connection. Yes, for those of you that were wondering and are waiting to know what I'm talking about, this episode we find out Sops's secret power. All the ghosts have a special power. When Higgintooth walks through you, you smell like farts. If Flower walks through you, you basically go ahead and get high. And Thorfinn can manipulate lights, and there's a bunch of different ones. So we learned out what Siopsis is, and he can transfer himself in dreams, and he's kind of manipulating Jay into doing the things that he wants. You should buy a pizza. He's playing basketball in his dreams, like he's an amazing basketball player, and Sops is the ref, and he's kind of giving him hints. You should buy a pizza because the ghosts can only smell; they can't touch really too much, except for Trevor. So I thought it was amazing that they did this kind of um fun little inception, so to speak. And when one of the inceptions that they do is a Star Trek episode. It's basically Star Trek. He's on the ship. They're dealing with a big monster that's coming from another dimension, and they have to put an end to it. And they're just having a blast. And he's still feeding information. And Sam teams up with Sops so that she can get the TV where she wants it, because he bought a humans only television. It's just hilarious the way that they kind of push all that together. And so of course Pete is alerted to this, and Pete, ever the amazing Boy Scout, is trying to figure out a way to communicate with Jay to prevent this stuff from Sops from happening. But ultimately, Sam is foiled and everything comes to fruition there. The other Star Trek connection, because I am a Star Trek podcaster, and be sure to join us Friday night at 9 o'clock for Star Trek Discovery. And big shout out to both Jasons, but Jason Hatswell is the reason why this looks so cool. This has the perfect framing, and you got the mist going by. He is epic, so be sure to check him out, VHS Jace on YouTube and wherever you follow social media. So I was talking about another Star Trek connection. It was quite funny how Star Trek connects into this. I'm a Star Trek podcaster with my buddies, one of the three co-hosts of the Captain's Quadrant, and the main ghost, that's Hetty Woodstone, was in Star Trek Picard. She was the one that screamed about the destroyer, and was the Borg that was ex-Borg that was getting saved, and she was one of the Jat Vaj, I believe, as well. And basically, the connection is there. So you've got a Star Trek podcaster that absolutely loves both shows. There's so many little intertwinings. It is amazing. So this episode, once the file is had, it's resolved, and Pete and Sops kind of become friends, and now he knows what he looks like. And I think When it comes to ghost powers, it's probably one of the coolest ones because you can hang out with him in his dreams. You can change the trajectory of things in his life. That's really neat, and I'm surprised it hasn't come up earlier. And whoever thought of that as his power, kudos to you because that is very clever and cool. That'd be something I'd want to see in Ghostbusters in the future or something like that. Now we're going to get into the third episode, the return of Jay's sister. Okay, we're just synopsing this all really quick because we're getting ready for tomorrow's episode. So the third episode, he sees dead people, and what ends up happening is Jay's sister is dating this guy who last season he was so into Jay's sister that he was willing to almost kill himself so that one of the ghosts could possess him and then that they could have coitus together. Yeah, wild, right? Absolutely wild. So so what ends up happening is of course, he comes over with the sister, and Jay's sister basically is like, her name is Poonam Patel. She plays Bella, and Bella is basically saying, "You won't believe this, but Eric can see ghosts." And Andrew Leeds is like, "Yeah, ever since I did that thing, I can see him," and it popped in later. So it's made him a badass. He had to come up with it later on because she was kind of losing interest. He was getting a little boring, but he did make up another character that he saw as a ghost in their apartment. It's a French guy, biker, which is a strange combination. I don't know if too many French bikers that aren't pedal bikers, but it was a lot of fun watching them return basically Eric and Bella to the cast. I think they have a fantastic chemistry on the show, and they are a nice addition to the ensemble that is on the show. Of course, we get more hilarity from Nancy and Pete. There is just a lot going on. Alberta's death was revealed at the end of last season, and it turned out that Hetty's son is responsible for Alberta's death. And I'll never forget the line. Oh, I told her the person that did her ultimate demise, and I still don't get sucked off. This show is just great for one-liners and continues to just hit zinger after zinger. Another great one-liner was when Pete was like, "Oh, Nigel and Isaac are getting married," and Isaac refers to his funds from the book that's forthcoming as a way to pay for the wedding and things that are forthcoming for their wedding. And Isaac says, "Yeah, we can use our money for X, Y, and Z." And of course, Heidi says, "Oh, did you hear that? He said their money, but it's not their money; it's Isaac's money." So of course, you know they have to pretty much iron out those little kinks. One of the lines is, of course, Pete is trying to explain, well, it doesn't really matter when he and his wife were together, they had those things. Well, then Heidi goes, "Well, your wife, it was a community wife." And it's just, oh my God. Some of these liners in this show are just brutal, but funny, and they land every time. Of course, the cat's out of the bag. They try to come up with a convincing story so that Eric can get away from the fake seeing ghosts because when Eric comes in and admits that he can see ghosts, Alberta's like my one of my favorite lines from Alberta. "Oh my God, good! You can come and turn the page. I'm so glad." So, because she likes to see the magazines and she can't turn the pages because she's not a corporeal being; she's a ghost. And she was hoping that, and that's Danielle Pinnock, and she was hoping so much that he could see ghosts, and then he was a fraud. And soon as Sam comes back, because she had to go out on an outing for a bachelorette party, and Thorfinn says, "Oh yes, bring back her to bachelorette." Of course, once they come in, and everybody's basically yelling at Sam that Eric is a fraud, and of course, um, Trevor was also trying to let Jay know that Eric was a fraud, but gets busted. The Basically the ultimate end here is right before they come up with a plan to basically fake like he lost the ability by having Eric fall down the stairs. And of course, the Bella finds out beforehand, so it's pointless because he said, and it was just like the way they phrased this, it was almost like perfect dialogue. It's like, oh, oh, I just walked through Flower, I'm woozy. And then Bella picks up right away. Wait a minute, you guys said Flower got sucked off. So they know Flower's not supposed to be there. Bella knows what's going on because Jay and Sam always fill her in with everything. So right away, she's like, wait a minute. And they try to warn Eric, but Eric does the deed. He flips down the stairs. And of course, she's impressed by his abilities to do whatever it takes to keep her around, keep her interests, so to speak. And of course, they make up and everything works out, which brings us to the fourth episode before tomorrow night's newest episode. And then that episode is The Guest Who Wouldn't Leave. Pete's widow, Carol, shows up at Woodstone Mansion during Sam and Jay's Halloween party when they're trying to impress some cool friends. The ghosts hope to bring Flower back with a seance. Now, this is great because we are left off right before the basketball March Madness that was going on. They had to take a little break. And basically, Pete's ex-wife, Carol, comes back and basically and she got the wrong email. She thought she was invited to the party, but she wasn't. So she came anyway because that's who she is, and she brought Munchkins with her. And basically, she she's hanging out with everybody, and she keeps coming around Sam, and Sam can't quite separate who's a ghost and who's human. And she's keeps asking the same questions, and Sam's just like, "Oh, you just wait in the kitchen, everything will be all right," because she's trying to impress her friends. And then, of course, she's in the kitchen, Carol, and Carol chokes on one of the donut holes or munchkins because they probably couldn't. They don't have sponsorship from Dunkin' from the Dunk, so they have to use fun ways to say the same thing. Anyway, so she says okay, and she's out on the floor, and Sam's friends come in and find Carol's body on the floor. And they're like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" And of course, it's the typical semantics of, "Hey, don't worry about Carol, you'll end up just like her." And they misunderstand it because they're thinking she's going to get killed and maybe that Jay and Sam killed Carol, but in reality, Carol's now a ghost and she's walking around the mansion as one of the ghosts, and Sam couldn't differentiate and basically just keeps telling her off a few times because Carol gets a little bit pushy. And Sam is, you know, people are noticing Sam is talking to like thin air. So they're like, what's going on? You're a little crazy. This episode was really cool. A lot of fun things happen. And then we're going to get into the wrap. Yeah, we're going to wrap this episode. It's a very fast one, two, three there. But yeah, this has a really cool cliffhanger, and that is we get a nice pan away from the mansion over to a well, and we hear Flower's voice. So the only thing that gets me about that is okay, so usually once you go too far off the grounds, you're zapped back. So how did she end up in the well and stuck in the well? Like she couldn't come back out? How are they going to get her out? How are they going to find her there? These are all the things that I'm really looking forward to in the next episodes. It's going to be really, really cool to figure it all out. And I hope you will join on this ride to shed light on every episode. This is just a quick catch up. So join me tomorrow as I talk about episode 5, The Silent Partner. And then on Friday, I will get into the latest episode, and that's episode 6, which is Hello Brother. This is when Trevor's brother Jeremy checks into the Woodstone after discovering a loophole in the Woodstone Reservation Points Rewards program. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So the trailers, the 2 little trailers they put out, looks great. So be sure to join us, like, share, and subscribe so you are alerted to when we have the latest episode out for you. And you can check out all the wonderful things that we're doing here on the To Be Seen channel by clicking out of this video and checking out our other ones. We have Doctor Who, we have movie reviews, and music. We got Disc Dungeon coming back and more. So stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun to be had.